I would try to walk them through how they hear from God directly. Are you confident that if you ask him a question about something within your theology, that you will get an answer? Because if you don't hear from the Lord, and I don't really think that our current churches do a great job of teaching that, because they like teaching what they teach. But I have always said, I don't think we should really be teaching that much. I think we should be teaching people to hear from the Lord. If they have questions about anything, they can go to the Lord and ask. If I go to the Father with a question, I have the expectation that I'm going to get an answer that's going to apply to me in my situation, in my life, what I need right now.
All right, Clarissa, so happy to have you on the show. It's my honor, my pleasure. And just let's just start off by letting people know a little bit about yourself and, your journey. How did you get to where you're at today and being free of some of the church walls and doctrines and so forth? So go ahead and share a little bit if you don't mind.
Okay, and I'm really happy to be here. So the Lord started asking me questions about 4 years ago about what the kingdom was. And I didn't really have an answer for that because I hadn't really picked that up in church. I hadn't heard any specific teaching on what the kingdom was. So I didn't really have a good answer for what it was. But even before that, maybe 10 years before that, I had started asking, what is the kingdom? Because it says that we're supposed to seek that first. And I thought, well, if we are supposed to seek that first, then that must mean it's primary. It's very important. But I didn't really get any traction because of the religious system that I was in at that time. So I kind of quit asking. And then the Lord started asking me what the kingdom was, and I didn't have an answer for that. So he started taking me through all of my spiritual upbringing and where I currently was at that time when he started asking me that question. He basically just brought me from what I had been taught from a child up to that point 4 years ago, and just started showing me this is not, what was kingdom and what wasn't kingdom. And at that time, I did not even know there was a movement. I didn't know anything about what they were calling the deconstruction movement. I didn't know anything about kingdom theology. I just knew he was teaching me on his own some of the truths that I now know are part of the kingdom theology stream.
Yeah. So, a lot of people, they get stuck there. They're afraid to leave. They've got friends in the church. They've got friends that want to, tell them how wrong they are. Did you go through any of that?
I didn't go through any of that because before I came into the kingdom stream, I was in a belief system that was already not mainstream Christendom, was not really part of mainstream Christianity. So I had actually already left the church in 2007 and became part of, I won't call it an alternative stream, but it's definitely not part of mainstream Christianity. It's not a cult or anything. It's not anything weird. Yeah. But so I had already left the church and was not expressing any type of spirituality, or I had no outward expression that would have aligned with the church anyway.
Okay. So you had it easy.
I don't know if I had it easy, but it was different.
Yeah. Well, I say that, Dean and I, we had it easy in that, Father closed things down. We had a church that we were running in Sacramento, and through, some events, he closed it down, and we weren't really intending to start it back up, but we had encountered the mystic movement, and actually it was Robert Henderson that came out and we had a conference with him. And the thing is, he left it so high, he just kind of came in and shared a bunch of stuff, and everybody's like, what was that? So we thought, okay, we'll do some classes on the courts of heaven from our understanding of it. And we began to do that, and just people started coming in. And so here we were back with now a mystic church, you could say. And so it made it very easy in that respect. So Yeah. So, what do you think, are some of the biggest challenges that anybody's going to face as they're making their own journey out of possibly, the church and wanting to step into, the freedom of spirituality, getting out of religion, stepping into a strong spiritual engagement with God?
Well, you will probably experience pushback from your social circle, your friends, your family, especially if you're attending a church where your extended family is also attending. So the social pushback is real. And even the movement that I left, that I would say I no longer identify with, I did even have, and still even today, I do have pushback from some of those people that I still am in communication with.
Mhm.
So I would say they do not understand in the same way that anyone that I know that is still in mainstream Christianity understands. My perspective now to them would be, I don't think I've actually been called a heretic, but certainly I think they think that my beliefs are not at all biblically aligned. They're not aligned with, certainly not mainstream Christian thought, and that makes them very uncomfortable. Whether or not that mainstream Christian thought is biblically aligned or not, just I'm going against the grain, and
Yeah.
that in and of itself just makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you said heretic, and it just popped in my head how myself and two other people were considering at one point starting a new show where you might not necessarily even know it was us, but my character was going to be Harry Tick. That was his name. And we even had a character all designed, this tick that was, uh, anyway, it's just, you can do so much when you use humor to look at things. And uh, it's beautiful to expose some of the craziness that, people believe when, when you take it too seriously, it's like you come up against the defenses and you can't really get anywhere. But anyway, so where are you at now? What are some of your main things that you feel like are important to you in your journey?
I would say I'm fully immersed in what I would call the kingdom stream. I don't really like the term deconstruction, and what I've noticed in all of the body of believers that I've been a part of, whether it was within what would be considered, the church, or I was in Messianic Judaism before I came into kingdom. Um,
Okay, so you had mentioned that you don't like the word deconstruction, and I don't either. One of the words I really like that Paul Young uses is renovation, because renovation is about you do tear down the things that aren't working anymore, that you need to renew. And so that's, I think, what we're doing is we're tearing down a lot of the building that was built that just isn't serving us well anymore. And we're holding on to the foundation, Jesus Christ and the Trinity. We're holding on to that, and then we're looking at, okay, how do we rebuild the structure? How do we build the house, the body? And I think that's important for people to understand, is that deconstruction in and of itself is not a good thing, because you just tore everything down. Now you got nothing left. So
I've noticed that when movements get names like that, it's typically from people that are on the outside of that movement looking in, and they'll give it a name. I don't know that I've ever heard anybody really within the deconstruction movement really call it the deconstruction movement. They're calling it that because that's the name it's been given. But I agree on the renovation, because, if you have a home that you want to remodel, you decide, what would I like to make this home? If I were going to rearrange my kitchen in some way, or my closet, or my master bathroom. So you're probably not tearing the house down to the foundation, maybe depending on the state that it was in when you started the remodeling. But, our faith has good bones. You hear that about houses.
yeah,
So the good bones of the faith, the deity of Yeshua, the fact that Yeshua is God and he walked the earth taught men, taught humanity what it looked like to be in 100% right relationship with the Father. So we have a good foundation to start with, and rebuilding upon that, I just had to decide what part of my faith was not being fruitful in my life anymore. It wasn't producing within me or within my parenting or within my family. It wasn't producing fruit any longer. And I couldn't deny the questions that God was asking me. They had to be answered, whether I fumbled around for an answer or if he gave me the answer. So it had to be done. I had to face the questions that he was asking me.
Yeah. So, so I'm curious, what would you say to somebody today that is maybe got some of the same questions and they're trying to come out of their church paradigm, whatever that is? Do you have anything that you would share with them personally to help them through that transition?
Honestly, I would try to walk them through how they hear from God directly, and to put aside all teaching and that kind of programming, that kind of expected knowledge, that expected, like towing the line.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would want to talk to them about, how do you hear from the Lord? Are you confident that if you ask him a question about something within your theology, that you will get an answer? Because if you don't hear from the Lord, and I don't really think that our current churches do a great job of teaching that, because they like teaching what they teach. But I have always said, I don't think we should really be teaching that much. I think we should be teaching people to hear from the Lord. And then when they have questions about their theology, about the theology period, or anything, if they have questions about anything, they can go to the Lord and ask, because the answer that he will give one person might be similar to the answer that you get. It might be completely different. So I would first want to talk to them about, how do you hear from the Lord? And what filter do you put it through? If you're putting it through your religious filters and your denominational filters, the end result probably isn't going to look much like what got put in that filter to begin with. It's probably going to end up mush on the other side. So I think hearing from the Lord and knowing that if I go to the Father with a question, I have the expectation that I'm going to get an answer that's going to apply to me today.
Come on.
In my situation, in my life, what I need right now.
It goes so much along with the idea that when we're, okay, let me back up a little bit. Okay, so we're shifting ages, right? Okay, we're shifting from church age into kingdom age, and in this process, there's a lot of changes that are happening. And one of them that I truly believe is one of the most powerful is, I believe that we're meant to be shifting away from the paradigm where the pastor, leader, teacher is up there telling everybody how to believe and what to believe, but rather, like you said, teaching everybody how to engage with God and get the answer for themselves from God, because that answer may very well be different for each person. And a lot of people listening to this are going to be freaking out probably about now, just because it's like, how do you have unity? How do you know what? If you're listening to the same God who is love, then there will be unity in all of that. Now, that doesn't mean uniformity. It means that there's simply this space to where you can hold love and room for one another. And it's like, I don't have a problem with people being in different groups because they think alike. And it's very healthy, because they get to share what they're believing, what they're thinking, and there's that camaraderie. Where it goes wrong is where you're looking at the other group and saying how bad they are. And you're saying, they just don't have it. They don't know what they're talking about. That's when we're actually coming against the body of Christ, because God's doing something with them that is different than what he's doing with you. And when you have, and I say you, I'm talking about me and everybody, when we have the arrogance to begin to think that, oh, well, my way is the only way and my way is the best way, that's not God. That's divisive. And we really need to get to that place where we're able to hear other people. And, maybe, you come to that place where I'm going to love, honor, and respect what you believe. But I'm sorry, I don't believe that. And, but that's still walking with the person. It's like, I'm going to love, honor, and respect, not just you, but I will love, honor, and respect where you are coming from. It's the second plumb line that we have in our three plumb lines of unifying the church. The first plumb line is Jesus is the way. So it's like if someone has that as their first plumb line, then the second plumb line is different, because every single person on the planet is going to interpret the Bible a little bit differently than someone else. But if you're not allowed to have that freedom, then yeah, we're just going to all come into uniformity and have to toe the line and go with whatever leader you're with, and that's it. You don't get to have your share, your voice, your piece to bring to the body. You just got to fall in line with everybody else, and that's not where we're moving into. Where we're moving into is that freedom.
I agree. We're moving away from the anointed man of God at the front of the room that teaches everybody else. And I firmly believe that, we like to talk a lot about the new covenant, but part of the new covenant is that you will have no need for man to teach you, because I will teach you myself. And that actually, that has to look like something in the earth. That's not just a scripture for a time down the road that I'm not going to see, that you're not going to see. We're not going to kick the can down the road. That looks like something today and right now. So if we're not teaching people to hear from the Lord and teaching, I would say, what a proper filter would be according to identity and original design, then you are going to get an answer. You're going to hear from the Lord in a way that is not going to lead you into proper identity, into proper sonship, and what your place is in the earth.
All right. So Clarissa, one of the things I also want to know is from you, what's the Father got on your heart currently? I mean, what's the theme that kind of is flowing through your life experience? And you also shared a teaching, whether that's the same thing or not, but you shared a teaching on the two Adams. And so take it away.
I would say the two things that right now are the most important for me to impart would be identity and freedom within the body for expression of even, people that I don't agree with, people that have a different expression of their beliefs. I think it's really safe to trust people in their walk with Yeshua. He keeps trusting the process of walking with humanity. So if he keeps trusting that process and bringing people into the fullness of sons and daughters, and then ultimately, I don't want to stop at just being a daughter. Being a daughter is great, and the benefits of that are, you could stop there, but I want to develop fully into, I guess it would be a queenship. It's weird to call myself or say that I want to be a queen, but kingship in the earth, queenship in the earth, and reproducing, bringing other people into that same identity, their original design, and then also into that freedom that there is a place in the body for you, even if you're not where I'm at. You're not excluded. You're not going to get blackballed. So I hope to be part of the pioneering movement of renovating the model, the church model, the leadership model. And, you don't have to be afraid of somebody's walk with the Lord, even if it gets to you, even if it gets strange looking, or if they're doing things that you've never had a desire to do, or even if it's weird, if it's strange and weird to you, you're seeing a little tiny snapshot of that person's development and whatever God is taking them through. So that doesn't mean they're going to stop there. Doesn't mean they're going to land there and stay there for decades. So it doesn't take away anything from your walk. It doesn't take away anything from you being fully actuated in what the Lord is bringing you personally into. So I would say those things are the most important to me that I would want to impart into the into the body.
And that freedom, Galatians 5:1, that Jesus came to set us free for freedom's sake. I was like, wait a minute, what's all that about? What's that mean? And again, for me, it goes back to about giving freedom of choice and not violating, the inner sanctum that he's given to us, where he just comes in and starts tweaking and, making you into what he wants you to be. versus allowing you to have a journey to where, yes, I do believe he's designed us. And hey, I want to interrupt just for a moment and just ask you, are you searching for deeper spiritual fulfillment and a community that truly understands your journey? I want to welcome you to the Inner Circle, a transformative space where seekers and thinkers and believers come together to explore the profound mysteries of faith. Now, in this Inner Circle, each session is more than just a study. It's actually a life-altering experience where deep spiritual insights are shared, identities are reshaped, and destinies are defined. So, guided by the principles in my book Choice, you'll look at this and find that the journey will challenge your perspectives, it will empower your faith, and connect you to kindred spirits on the same path. So don't settle for a stoic faith anymore. Join the Inner Circle and discover the more that you've been searching for. Sign up today and step into a new chapter of your spiritual adventure. Certain ways that, we have certain likes and dislikes and so forth. But even those, when we can let those go, it's like there's a oneness with God that comes when we're able to let go of preferences and expectations and really just dive into the fullness of who God is, and to enjoy one another, to enjoy creation. Even some, again, I've said this many times, it's like some people you got to enjoy them from a distance just because they may be a little dangerous right now, but you can still love them, right? But love them from a distance because they may be on a journey that is harmful to you or others, and it's okay to love them from a distance or to enjoy them from a distance. And just remember, they're on their journey, they're playing their part. And yeah, I'm not meaning to even minimize, tragic things that people have done, because that's not what I'm talking about. That's, digging ditches where I'm not going. But just to understand that God loves each and every one of us, and he's given us the freedom to find our way to him. And it's going to look different for each and every person. So that freedom is so important, because we are only going to get there through our own journey, not someone else's.
And I really believe he loves our journey, actually. You don't look back at videos of your children or even of yourself and look at yourself as a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old and say, look at me. I didn't even know how to walk. I just kept falling down and I just looked so stupid as a 2-year-old. I couldn't walk like an adult. You don't look at any other stage of your development and make fun of it or ridicule it in any way. That happens a lot as people are coming into just their own flavor of theological expression and spiritual expression. But we wouldn't do that with anything else. We wouldn't do that with any other part of our development.
Yeah, that's so good, so good. And that freedom, it is a two-edged sword as well. It's the one thing that allows us to love, and to love completely, and to love freely, not be programmed to do it. But it also allows us to do evil and to do nasty things and evil things. So, and yet God found that it was important that we have that freedom. And it goes down some roads that a lot of people aren't necessarily comfortable with diving into. But I'm super excited because, when we are able to allow one another to have the journey, and we can love one another on the journey, we get to just engage with where they're at, and maybe be a piece and a part of that journey for them to help them in that season. And maybe that's all that we were meant to be, is, in that season. And then we move on, or they move on, and there's other people and parts of their lives that people, enter in and become part of that journey. And it's a flow, it's a beautiful flow.
Yes. And there are people even in my past that whenever I was practicing a different outward expression, I love those people. I cherish those people. And I served alongside them, and I fully was committed and fully believed in what I was doing. And then it was just time to move. When it was time to move on, it was just time to move on. And then God brought me into a new place. And again, I served with those people that were in that new place, and made friends and made people that I would consider family, and love those people, serve beside them. And that's just what you do. You just dive right in and serve with those people. And like now, the people that I'm involved with that would be more in the kingdom streams, having more similar beliefs than I have or with me right now. Again, giving it 100% and walking with them, celebrating where they are, because they actually have the capacity to celebrate where I am too.
Yeah. And that is a beautiful, beautiful thing when we can allow each other and help each other along in the journey, and not try to manipulate and control people to have the same journey that I've got. It's like, it's not meant to be that way.
And I've learned the most from people that have that capacity.
Yeah.
People that just want to tell you, no, you're not doing it right. It should look like this. Don't you think you're getting a little out there? Do you really think you need to be exploring that? I've learned less from them because they're not really as concerned with teaching as they are with control. So the people that have been able to celebrate where I am and even give me their input, give me their perception of this or that, I've learned the most from those people.
Yeah. And to be able to say, I think it's good and okay to be able to say, yeah, I've been down that road. It didn't end well for me. And then you also might look at some other people who've been down that road and maybe it didn't end well for them. And you might be able to learn from the wisdom of their journey rather than having to bang your head against the wall on your own journey. But you get that option, you get that freedom. And to be in an environment where there's no condemnation and no judgment for somebody who says, yeah, I hear you 20 people who went down that road and it was really bad. I still want to go down the road, because there's people that'll do that.
That's parenting.
Yeah.
That's parenting.
Yeah.
24/7.
Yeah. So, and with my kids, you talk about parenting. I oftentimes would tell my kids, well, you can do that, whatever that might be, but here's the consequences, so still giving them a choice, but bringing some boundaries into place as well. But, you can do that. However, if you do that, then these are the consequences. But if you do
natural
this,
consequences.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, when I put natural consequences into effect, that was a better parenting system than anything I could have personally thought of to inflict. And, it was painful. It was painful watching. It's painful watching your child make an unwise decision, but you don't stop loving them. You don't stop supporting them. You don't stop having their back and being their biggest cheerleader. So honestly, God has taught me more about how he's raising me up through my parenting and how he parents me. So I think it's a really good analogy.
Yeah. So good. So good. All right. So anything else on freedom?
I guess not.
Okay. So let's talk about expectations and preferences, and how do you look at those, and how do you see those affecting your journey?
Well, I heard a long time ago that expectations will kill any relationship, whether it's friends, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, parent, child, doesn't matter. So give up all of your expectations. And that is an incredibly difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know if just giving up expectations for the sake of giving them up, I don't know if that's the godly thing to do. I'm not going to say there's not wisdom in it, but some of the expectations that I have for, honesty and right treatment and kindness, some expectations I think are good. And when those get violated, that may be how okay, this person isn't loving me well, or this person isn't protecting me well. I taught both my sons, my older one and my younger one, when friends would do something that was hurtful, and instead of me saying, I don't want you to hang out with that kid anymore, I would just say, well, is that how you want to be loved? Is that how you want to be treated as a friend? How does that feel? So I think we can have some expectations that are healthy. And like I said, they'll let us know when we might need to leave a situation if something's not meeting our expectation. But that's not coming from a place of, kind of like these spoiled expectations, like everybody has to do what I want, and coming from like a spoiled place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. And I know that, one of the things that I'm sharing, growing in myself, but sharing it as well, is just an understanding that I also recognize that my expectations can fall really, really short of what God could do. And I see so many people who run on their expectations, and then they get disappointed when they don't get what they think they should get. And it's like, well, those are your choices. If you want to place conditions on your happiness and those expectations get in the way, um, you know, you can choose that. Or looking at expectancy, and just if you have a good picture of who God is, that He is love and He's for you, that you can trust Him, that where you're moving into, and this is what I love, is being able to move on my journey into the next season, whatever that season is, with expectancy that God's got my back, that God has my best interest in mind, and God has, a trillion different ways to fulfill things than I can think of. And if I put my own expectation on what I think the outcome should be, I'm really putting a limitation on God, and or I'm putting a limitation on what's going to make me happy, because I put an expectation there, and when it doesn't get met, I get frustrated or I get angry, multitude of things, disappointed. But when we don't have those expectations, and we're able to let go and just have an expectancy for good things,
Yes.
then it's beautiful. It's like that positive frequency, that we're moving forward, just trusting that God has great things for me. And that frequency alone, I think, is part of what God has created for us, that when we send that frequency out, into the universe, that God has already got the principles there, so that when I send that out and I'm living that way, that's what is multiplied and brought back to me. And like I said, Father's got a trillion different ways to fulfill it than I could think of. And why would I want to limit Him down to one little viewpoint of my own, which is probably a whole lot less than what He could give me? So it's definitely a different way of thinking, paradigm shift, but it's beautiful.
Yes, and that is the flow. When we say let go and flow, as your book mentions, that is the flow, and having the expectancy that even if I choose a wrong thing, even if I make a wrong turn, he is so good at turning situations around to
Yeah,
benefit me,
yeah.
for my good, that there's really nothing to worry about. Even
So
if I
good.
do something incorrect, I don't know if incorrect is the right word, but even if I make a wrong choice, He's going to turn it around, and I can still have the expectancy of being blessed, and just being blessed in whatever situation I'm in, because He's for me.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful also to be in a place where you can make a choice, and you might be wrong. You might have some consequences out of it that you were not, expecting, or you were not, you didn't see coming. And then to just be in a place where you love yourself well, and from that mistake, you look at it and it's like, well, dang, I don't want to do that again. Um, you know, that didn't turn out good. So you learn from it. You get the wisdom from that bad choice, and now you move forward knowing better. And so yes, you've learned something, and you're not beating yourself up. That's the Can I just say it's the dumbest thing in the world to beat yourself up?
Yes, yes, yes.
You know, I do believe in making, restitution and so forth, where, if I made a mistake that cost me, or, well, especially somebody else, something, I do want to, um, rectify the situation. I want
Sure.
to bring restitution. That's something we should do. And that's part of the consequences of, making a bad decision, but being willing to correct it, and then realize, okay, I don't want to do that again, and hopefully be able to not do that again.
Well, I think if people can see, whether that's people within the body or even pre-believers, if they can see us operate like that, that teaches them something. That shows them an example that they too, this is what walking with God offers. It offers
Mhm.
that you don't have to worry and micromanage every little decision.
Uh,
You make the best decision with the information that you have in that moment, but He's
mhm.
big enough to turn the situation around, or Well, I mean, he's not going to leave you. He's going to be right there in it with you. It's not like he waits on the other side of that and then asks you, well, how'd that work out? No, he goes through the thing with you and brings it all about for either, like you said, you've learned something and now I have more experience that I can take down the road with me. So it sets an example. It sets an example for the world that this is what our God does. This is what our Father God does for us.
So good. And if people can just see that, if they can just see that we are able to trust this God of the universe, the creator of the universe, that we can trust him and just go with the flow. And that's another thing. It's like when you got expectations, you're trying to push things to to a certain outcome that you want. Now, and that's what corporate America is going to tell everybody that's what they need to be doing. And I've learned that that's not the way to go. At least if you're looking for love, joy, and peace, that is not the way to go, because you're just striving and you're pushing against all kinds of odds and ends that you're not meant to really be pushing against. You don't have to. When you can relax and rest and trust God that he's got the best outcome for you. And the thing is, a lot of it now, this is going to a whole nother subject, but a lot of it goes, if you're listening to corporate America and you're listening to the leaders, most of them are going to be telling you that you need to look a certain way to be successful. I'm like, who says? Who says?
Imagine the levels of stress that would go down.
Yeah.
Because you can still be in business and operate this way. You can still be in every facet of life that everything that life has to offer and operate in this way, and your stress level would be hugely decreased.
Yeah. And I can say that I would trade. Well, in fact, in some ways, in one sense, I kind of have. I've traded because I did pretty well in business. I had a business where I made a couple $1,000,000, $2.5 million in 2 years. So I did all right. And yet, while I was in it, it's like I remember saying, "This isn't it for me. The money is not doing it for me," and realizing that there are other things that can be valued, and that Father's put into each one of us a value system, and it's a good one. If you got a jacked up one, then that's not really what he put in you. That's probably what someone else put in you. But that there's a good value system in you of what you value, what you like to do, what you like to create. And when we move with that, it's like, again, it's let's see, access and attraction. Alignment and attraction. When we align with who God says we are, rather than trying to be what the world tells us we should be, then we get this attraction of the law of attraction, where God's already designed it. He's put it into the universe, that when you are aligned with who he says you are, that's a big thing to step into that. But when you step into who you really are, you begin to attract all the things you're supposed to have in order to accomplish what you're here to accomplish. And it's not a striving thing. It's not a stressful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's just a lovely thing. And
spheres, if any of those spheres offered that level of peace, then you wouldn't see, then the people that are within those wouldn't, you'd see that there was obviously an answer there. And there's not, because those people are stressed and they're tired and they're striving. And I'm not going to say you don't get a measure of identity from your career, because that just happens. You just do. But if you name any system, whether it's education or banking or business, literally anything, if it offered the peace that we're talking about, that you and I are talking about now, of being able to flow with God the Father, then those spheres would not look as striving and stressful as they look. It would be obvious to the world that they would have an answer for the world, but they don't.
Yeah, no, what I feel and sense from most of those is chaos. And it's like, once you experience peace, and so one of the things that we do in our groups is we do a lot of meditation time, and we're one of the biggest points and objectives of that meditation time is to enter into that peace that passes all understanding, the love that is unconditional, and the joy that is solid. It doesn't, it's not here today and gone tomorrow. It's not here in one moment and gone. It's a substantial joy that is a foundational piece of your life. And so we enter into those places and we absorb that into our being. and literally, bring that back into this realm. And we're growing in that more and more and more. But it's like that pearl of great price. It's like once people start to experience it. Hey, I wanted to jump in here just real quickly and ask you to check out a website. It's like, are you ready to explore new horizons in your spiritual journey? Because at Kingdom Talks Media, we are your go-to media channel for transformative insights and fresh perspectives. It's a place to dive into a vast library of interviews and shows and conferences that challenge the status quo and inspire deep spiritual growth. So whether you're seeking to deepen your faith or just discover the true identity that's already in you in Christ, or simply expanding your understanding, Kingdom Talks Media provides the content and community to guide you. So visit kingdomtalksmedia.com today and check it out. This is where your journey into a deeper understanding of greater impact begins. Most of us would, like that parable goes, we would be willing to sell everything in order to just get that pearl of great price. And that pearl of great price is that love, joy, and peace, where you're just, you're kind of done, in the sense you don't have to strive to try to accomplish anything to prove yourself. You're just in the groove, you're in the flow, and you're doing what Father's bringing to you, and you're just enjoying life. And yeah, life is going to have its slaps, it's going to have its ups and downs, but you face them with this knowledge that God is good, He's got my back, and whatever this is I'm facing, no matter how hard it might be in the moment, the eternal perspective allows us to see that we can face this and grow in love, and that's why we're here, to grow in love. And I can make those choices to grow in love, do my best. If I fail, I'm not beating myself up. I'm just like, okay, I want to do better next time, but we'll see how it goes, but not to get so caught up in the minute ins and outs and circumstances of the day to day, but have that eternal perspective and be ready to, just flow with what Father's doing, and know that you are rock solid in the love and the joy and the peace. That's a beautiful life.
You may even get a heavenly solution or a strategy or a blueprint, and what you see coming down the road that you think is going to be a real big fat problem may not even end up being a problem, because you go to the Father and He gives you a strategy, He gives you the solution for that before it causes that problem. Or even if you're in the middle of something, you can go to Him and He can give you the solution for it. So it's not just about walking with Him in a peace. It's a back and forth relationship where I can go to Him and say, that I'm dealing with this. What do I do? What do I do in this situation? And knowing that He's going to answer me. He's not just going to leave me hanging to figure it out on my own. It's not about working it out by myself. He's going to work it out with me. And I may even get a specific answer for a very specific problem.
Yeah, it's so stress-free when we can get it. But it is a massive paradigm shift for most people that are already walking in the world. It can be a massive shift, and to be able to take the time and find a community that is they're on their journeys as well to make that shift. It's so beautiful to be in a good community. Some of the things I'm going through right now, I love the community that we have, because everyone in our community, and I do mean everyone that's in our community, there's many that have not been in the community and they don't get it. But those who are in the community, they understand the depth of love, unconditional love, and the peace and the joy that we can walk in, even though we're going through some horrendous things. It's a support. It's like we're all on the journey together. It's beautiful.
And one time it might be them that's going through it, needing to get that support back in their direction.
Yeah. No, very true. Very true. So now I'm trying to remember, you said there was the two things that you really felt were important. One was freedom. What was the other one? Identity.
And
yeah. So
I think identity beyond a son or daughter. Identity, as far as, if I want to be an ambassador, then that means I want to shift culture. I want to shift something to make it look more heavenly, to make it look more like whatever its original design is. I want to shift it in that direction, even if I can move the needle a little bit toward that. Some of these things that need a massive shift, that's going to take a while. I hope that the Lord will exponentially increase the body's ability to shift things into heavenly culture on earth. But that's going to take all hands on deck, I think. So not stopping at just being a son or daughter, but actually walking in how do you influence humanity in a positive direction? Where do you see kingdom not being displayed, and how do you bring that into that situation, whether or not you're dealing with believers or if they're pre-believers, whatever flavor of expression they have, because kingdom attributes work everywhere. So love, joy, and peace works everywhere, and bringing those parts that are not there in whatever your own sphere of influence is, because we all have one. And sometimes, we move through seasons, and so our spheres change. When my kids were little, my sphere looked completely different because of what I was involved with, because I had small children. And now that my kids are grown, I have more freedom and I can be involved in other things. So how do we, in each of those seasons, how do we shift creation around us into looking more kingdom and looking more heavenly right here on earth?
I love that. And, I've shared a few different places, but, just this idea of learning how to overwhelm your circumstances with kingdom versus being overwhelmed by your circumstances. And again, it comes from meditation. It comes from engaging at that deep, deep space and place, and finding what I call either the river of life, or the sea of glass, or the ocean of the Spirit of God, which is all the fruit of the Spirit. The love, joy, peace, faithfulness, goodness, patience, self-control. All that, and it's infinite, and when we can learn how to tap into that, so rather than getting focused on our circumstances and being completely overwhelmed by those circumstances, being able to just slip into the meditation, because you can do that. You can be in the grocery store and you can kind of do that, and just slip into that place and just open up to be the conduit of the kingdom principles and values, and just literally let yourself be the conduit that flows, lets that kingdom ocean of values and so forth flow into and overwhelm your circumstances. And again, it's done from a place of peace and rest. You can't make that happen. You have to let it happen.
And I don't think you can make it happen just by looking at a thing and going, you know what, I don't like that over there. I don't like that because that is not Christian enough. That is not whatever. And so I'm just going to go get right in the middle of that. And I'm just going to change things up because I don't like how that looks. If that's not where God's called you, you're probably going to get kicked around a bit, and it's going to be really painful. And I'm speaking from experience. It's very painful. And you don't know why. You're like, but I'm here and I'm doing the Lord's work, and I don't know why these people are not receiving me. Well, I wasn't called there. That was not my table to pull my seat up at. I do have one, but that wasn't it. So you have to figure out very quickly, I need to get out of here. Otherwise I'm going to continue getting kicked around. Yes. So you hear from him, you hear from your Father, this is how I created you. I've pre-wired you with these things. And, this is where I want you to go and where I want you to influence.
Well, and that brings kind of back to another point where, the evangelist comes to your church, and is going on and on and on about how you need to be telling everybody about Jesus, and just really throwing the guilt trip on. And so you go out and you go to Starbucks or someplace, and you see somebody and you're like, okay, I need to tell somebody about Jesus. I got to tell somebody. And you go do just that, and you get beat up. And they're like, that's part of the problem with people standing up and imposing their belief system and who they are onto everybody else. Now, share a story, share stories, share your life, but do it from a perspective of, hey, I'm sharing who I am and what I've been doing. And if it resonates with you, and you feel inspired to go do something like that, and you feel like it's coming from the Father, then sure, go do it. But do not be guilt tripped into thinking that just because so and so did it, big evangelist or, famous, whatever, whatever, you know, let that go. Let that go and just look to see what the Father's doing, because you're going to enjoy your life when you're doing what the Father's doing. And
I
He's
think the
going to
best
do,
thing to do is when you go into, like, to use your example of going into the coffee shop, whoever it is you're engaging with, whoever it is that you are, the cashier or whoever's taking your order, just ask. You could just ask the Father right there, what do you think about this person? What do you say about this? And just, you know what? People love a prophetic word. People love
yeah,
to know that they're seen and that they're heard. And I've never, ever seen a prophetic word not do its work, not shift that
edify.
person's. Yes.
Yeah,
But you
yeah,
you have to ask God, what is,
yeah.
can I have a word for this person? And he'll give you one. It's incredible. And it changes their whole countenance.
Yeah. And at the same time, if you do ask and you don't get one, okay,
Right.
you know,
Order your coffee and
maybe
enjoy your coffee.
exactly. Yeah. It's like we just, I just say to everybody, be careful about the would have, could have's, should have's, you're supposed to, just because, again, somebody with a certain gift came into town and said, you should be doing and operating out of the same gift that I am. Like baloney. That's just baloney. Just let it go, and look to see what Father's doing in your life. And yeah, because otherwise, it's like, okay, we'll turn it around. Well, okay, the whole church then turns around to the evangelist and say, now, evangelist, you need to do everything that we're all doing because we're all the body. And ask that evangelist if they're going to go out and do that. They probably wouldn't,
Right.
because it's not their gift. But unfortunately, we want to take our gifts and impose them onto everybody else sometimes. So again, just getting that place where we can live from rest and peace and let people be people, let people be on their journey. And if you're called to come alongside somebody in that part of their journey, then great. Have a good time doing it, and but don't feel like if you're feeling guilty that you have to do it, you're probably not in the right space and time to do that. And maybe there's another timing issue with it, but yeah,
And being
just
able to
gotta.
just look at humanity and see, humanity is beautiful. And it's beautiful simply because God says they are, because God wanted to send his son to save all of humanity. So humanity is beautiful simply because Yeshua puts value on he puts value on people. And if
Yeah,
you value what he values and value what the Father values, then you're going to look at them without you knowing anything about them, if they haven't done anything positive in your life, just the cashier at Starbucks haven't done
yeah.
anything positive in your life other than take your coffee order or
Right.
make your coffee.
Maybe coffee.
But that simply the fact that they are so loved and valued by the Father, that's reason enough
Mm,
to put your
that's
love
it.
on them. Reason enough.
That is it too. I mean, just to love on people, period. Just love. Just love. God's love is unconditional. It's poured out all over the planet, and and it's actually it is getting into people. There, unfortunately, people want to look at the negative and the garbage and focus on that. In reality, human race isn't all that bad, because if it was all that bad, we'd all be out just killing and stealing and one another all day long every day. We don't do that as a human race. We don't do that as a whole. Yes, there are some that do, but very, 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 very few. And the rest of us, we get along with each other fairly well. But that can be taken so much deeper if people would stop focusing on all the negative and really start being grateful for what is around us, and it will change the world. I
It's a
guarantee
resource
that.
we never run out of. It's an
Mhm.
abundance. There, you giving away love, you will never run out of it. It will just
Yeah.
create your capacity to give it more. So
Amen. Amen. Good, 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 good stuff. So, wow. Well, we haven't talked about it, but we're going to do a deeper dive. And so on the deeper dive, I think I've got some topics I want to throw out there, like where has God revealed himself, in the world, and what does that look like? And it's going to be a little bit different, I think, than a lot of people might be comfortable with. We'll see. So if you want to see the deeper dive part, I encourage you to go over to kingdomtalksmedia.com and become a member over there. There's a lot of other good stuff there. There's some conferences and some meditations that are getting put over there, and you get to see the entire show. So yeah, the deeper dive is an addition, and you're going to see the 1 hour on Facebook and YouTube. But if you want to go deeper, go to kingdomtalksmedia.com. And Claryssa, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, and I just thank you for being on here. Just good conversation. I love just hanging out, and we'll have more of these. We'll see what the future brings. There's a lot of cool things coming. I think a lot of changes that are coming, and I'm excited about what God's doing. So
It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you for being on here. All right, love you all, and we will see you next time.